so you know there is a basketball season still going on, because that's, there's been some other things going, but we played at DC, was that Saturday?
Saturday.
Okay, Sunday we did the Special Olympics Clinic. Monday we practiced. Tuesday we gave them the day off. Wednesday we did run and shoot. And Thursday we practiced, and we'll practice today.
How difficult has this week been?
How?
Just difficult?
Well, it's, you know, it's been extremely difficult, extremely emotional, but it's still, I'm very blessed. I'm the basketball coach at North Carolina and working with a great group of kids and got a lot of good things going. But it's, you know, with Coach Smith's situation and getting that text message 11/19 Saturday night. So since that time, you know, my world has sort of been spinning a different way than it normally does the second week in February in the middle of ACC play, which is okay. You know, I mean, it's, somebody said it's just a game. It's more than that to a lot of us, but it is just a game. But it's been emotional, it's been consuming, not just time consuming, it's been all consuming because of the thoughts you have. But like I say, I'm very blessed anyway.
Now moving forward, how do you think his legacy will affect the team?
Moving forward, how do I think?
His legacy
His
will
legacy.
affect the team.
You know, the kids nowadays, I mean, it's hard to anyone to imagine, but it's been 18 years since Coach has been head coach. You know, so about the time most of my guys were being born or 1 year or 2 years old, it's the last time he's coached. But they know the history, tradition, what he meant here, and what he still means to me. I mean, there's not too many practices that go by or meetings that go by that I don't bring up Coach Smith's name or something he did or the way he did something. So the legacy will always be extremely strong here because what he accomplished. I mean, it's here. You know, we play in the Dean Smith Center, and the Hall of Fame Museum and everything is right here. So all of our guys know a great deal about Coach, even though very few of them, if any, ever got to spend any quality time with him.
With so much going on, is it going to be kind of a relief to finally get back on the court and play the game on Saturday?
There's no question it'd be a great deal of relief, especially if we play well. You know, but you have all those emotions on every possession, but it'll be a welcome relief to be able to focus a lot more on that than it's been the last 4 or 5 days. But again, I don't want anybody to act like this is woe is me. I've been very blessed to have Coach Smith in my life and to be involved with him. And I wish there was some way I could have honored him 24 hours a day, every single day. But getting back, as Linnea said, there is a basketball season going on.
When you look
Joel
at,
Berry come out?
Pardon?
How did Joel Berry come out with the game?
I think he played 10 minutes and appears to have done well. You know, was okay in practice. We're still limiting him in practice, but it's hard to limit too many guys because we don't have enough to practice. But I'm hopeful in the next couple of weeks that he'll be able to get back to form. But it's, you don't sit out for 3 to 4 weeks and all of a sudden still have the same thing going on.
When you say limited, it's not a setback, it's just being cautious.
Oh yeah, we did limited means that he works a limited number of plays in practice.
Right, you just want to make sure it wasn't any kind of thing that concerned you, I guess, you know.
No, I mean, it's like a guy that has a hangnail, you give him a couple of days before you put him in there and everything, or if a guy's got a broken nose or whatever, you just sort of get him back in gradually. I could say gradually, but limited is just the terminology I've always used.
a lot of athletes and coaches say that when they're asked questions about what they've achieved, they'll reflect on it when their playing or coaching days are done. With all the praise being heaped on Coach Smith this week, has anybody asked you about the fact that, you know, he was third generation basketball, Naismith, Fog Allen, Dean, and you're fourth. And the game was invented in 1891. And you're just the fourth generation from the inception of the game. Have you been asked about that? And if no,
To answer your question, no, I have not been asked about it. That's a pretty good thought process there. You know, it's, you sit back and you think a little bit about, well, I should say, I have sat back a little bit. You know, when I was coaching in Kansas, we had the program for over 100 years when I left there, and I was only the 7th coach in Kansas history. And so that was important to me. And, you know, I hadn't thought about the generational thing there, but I haven't been playing the game very long. You know, it's there's a lot of things been around a lot longer than basketball, but it's it's a great game. It's a game that I do think has the values that teach you to, helps teach you to be successful in life because you're working together with people. I think all of us, everybody in this room, everywhere, the team play aspect of our lives is something that's extremely important, but I had never thought of that fourth generational thing.
You said that you wish you could have found out, or maybe figured out a different way to honor Coach Smith. Do you think what you've achieved and the way your career has gone is part of that? Because when they talked about him this week, one of the things they mentioned was the tree, and you're at the top of the coaching tree, of his coaching tree.
I think I've said this when I'm 64 years old, and every day I still try to think if what I'm doing is making him proud, so that's important to me. But I've also, every year, every Final Four, everything that's happened, I've tried to acknowledge him and let him know that. And so I think, deep down, I mean, he doesn't worry about what Roy Williams was doing, but it was important to me. And I think deep down it was really important to him. It was important to both of us, I think, to have him in the locker room in 2005. It was important to me, if you remember, when I was up on the stage in 2009, before I got off the stage, I thanked him and hoped that he had been able to watch, and because that's when he had first started, just getting to the point that he wasn't as comfortable with his life as he had been. But I think that, my high school coach told me one time, when you coach a guy 30 years later, you still see something you gave him, and you ought to do everything you can to make sure that that's something positive. And even though Coach Smith didn't coach me as a player, he coached me as a coach, and so I think he knows that.
Along the same lines, Coach, were you able to reflect a little bit, by everybody who's given praise and, think back to the 80s, you won the championship and everything when Dean was, the Dean down here. So were you able to, to hear all that and kind of think back, the good old days?
Thinking back, and I use your terminology, the good old days, it's been almost opposites, because I have thought a lot about first starting with Coach and what he meant to me, trying to get prepared for my remarks. But at the same time, I've tried to keep going with what we're doing now and what he would want me to be doing. I was supposed to go on a recruiting trip Wednesday, and I decided not to go because there were just so many things going on. And then all of a sudden I said that would disappoint Coach Smith, and so I went. And so what he has meant to me throughout my entire professional life is never going to change. But as far as sitting back and really thinking about the good old days, I haven't done a lot of that. There's just been too many things going on. I mean, it's just, this whole passing has been so overwhelming for a lot of us to even think about.
Roy, do you feel like guys today, I know a lot has been made sometimes of the quote-unquote AAU culture and just the amount of games they played, and maybe they don't care about as many. But do you feel like guys today are still as competitive and have that will as maybe 20, 30 years ago?
I think they're still as competitive, especially some of them, but I think the culture does lessen the hunger, the thirst. I can't even describe it. The need for winning is not as big as it once was, because I've told you guys before, you go see a guy play in the summer league or some tournament, and he plays 5 games in one day. I saw Ty Lawson play 5 games in one day. And one game was over, and he lost it right at the end. And I thought, man, you can use this as a teaching moment. Coach said, okay, guys, we're on court number 6 in 35 minutes. And so that in itself, you lose some of that. We used to recruit a guy and say, we'll take you to Hawaii once every 4 years, and now everybody we recruited's already been there on a summer team or something like that, or played in a tournament. But I think the whole world has changed like that a great deal. But I think the real need, it's a dramatic hunger with me. I don't think that every kid has that to quite the level that they themselves did, because it's going to be different for every individual. But you'll have some people that is here, 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 and I think you still have that. It's just that it's a lower level, I believe.
You just got Joel back, buried back a little bit, like you said, limited. You said you were going to wait a few weeks on Theo to see if he was what you guys were going to do with him. Do you know anything more about that, or
No.
still waiting?
No, I think I said 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I think the question was here last week, and I think we agreed that last week was 2 weeks. Is that right, Steve?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Just say yes.
Absolutely. 4 weeks. How does Desmond Dean now affect rotations in practice, especially this?
And practice, it really hurts in practice. Desmond gave us a shot blocker, defender, rebounder, the big guy on the other team. The starting five was trying to work, and never used the terminology scout team, but everybody knows what you're talking about when you're doing that. So, but also just to use a security blanket. If we really needed a defensive stop, I usually turn to Desmond. I had to ask him one day, I said, am I embarrassing you by just putting me in the game 1 or 2 minutes at that point? And he said no, and I believed him. And I told him that when I first started coaching, I made up my mind I was only going to have one rule about playing time. I was going to play the guy that I wanted at that specific time. And the other thing you think about is just him as an individual. You know, you go through 4 years and you play a little and play a little more and then not play as much, and you go through that, and then the ups and downs of the body and the aches and pains that you have, and then all of a sudden, bang, you know, then your playing career as a college player is over with. And I think about him and what goes through his mind right now much more than his effect on our team.
You talked about him as a really good leader and a guy that, does that, with guys that are that way and are respected the team, does that change at all when have you seen that dynamic change when they're out of uniform or have to be, you know, in suit on the bench?
No, I think the respect that Desmond has with the rest of the team, I think that stays the same. I think, you know, some guy with a knucklehead and he leaves and everybody's sort of glad the knucklehead's gone, but I think there's no question about that. Des is not one of those knuckleheads, but there's a great deal of respect. And they know how hard he works in practice every day to do one essential thing, and that's try to make our team better. And I think there's a great deal of, as I said, respect, but also appreciation of that.
Got Pitt tomorrow. What concerns you about them? I know they're sort of like a rebounding, bruising team.
Well, you know, looking at the stat sheet last year, they scored 21 points off offensive rebounds against our 6. In the ACC tournament, we're down 20 points with 7 minutes to go in the game. They physically just overwhelmed us. Now they're different players. Some of them are still there. Robinson, Young, Martell, you know, those kind of things. But I think that Artis, excuse me. I think that Jamie's teams really hang their hat on playing you really aggressively and not going over the line, but really aggressively, physically on the defensive end of the ball. He does a great job of coaching his guys how to play the defensive end and rebound. This year, I mean, you know, they also, one of the things on the stat sheet that jumped out at me was just their assist-to-error ratio. I mean, they've really done a great job of taking care of the basketball. So, again, we're going to see a team that shows some of the characteristics of their coach, and that's a competitive guy who does a good job of getting these kids to play. And I do remember how I thought they just overwhelmed us in the ACC tournament last year.
You guys are in the middle of I think it's 3 straight road games. I think 3 of them, 4 of the last 5 on the road. Do you feel like you guys how do you feel like you guys are able to kind of handle that or have been able to handle that so far?
Well, the jury's still out. You know, we still have a few of them to play, but, you know, the 5-game stretch, at Louisville, Virginia, #1 team in our league at home, and then 3 more on the road. It's not a very easy stretch by any means. You'd like to have those spread out a little more, but it's just the so-called computer that spits it out. You know, that's the way it comes out. But it's a tough period. It's a tough period anyway for everybody because you get to this point, you're not close enough to the tournament to see that light at the end of the tunnel, and you're beaten up, and your team's hurt, and all this kind of stuff. But it's nice to have a lot more of those games at home to try to help you get through that.
Speaking of beaten up, how much healthier is Marcus now than, say, maybe a month ago?
I was trying to remember how long he's had this because it seems like it's been about a month that he's had it. Before he got to plantar fasciitis, I thought he was fine.
Wasn't it a hip about a month ago?
You know, he got banged in the hip.
That's Syracuse.
I don't think he really had anything that I thought he was banged up before plantar fasciitis. You know, I mean, everybody gets whacked in a game or practice or something, but I think plantar fasciitis came in, that was the thing, it was really painful and really detrimental to him being the player that we needed to be, and so he's, that right now is not nearly as painful as it was, so he's a lot better than he was when that started.
Coach, what's the feel of your team going into this road matchup against Pitt? Do you feel they're all the way locked in and not looking ahead at all, and considering all the distractions they've had this week?
I don't think they're looking ahead by any means, but, you know, it's been sort of a catch your breath, get your body healed. These last 2 weeks, we've had more academic assignments, tests, papers, everything due than we have at any point so far in this semester, so it seems like they've been overloaded with a lot of stuff. And, but I would think that they know that tomorrow's going to be a very difficult test, and guys like Marcus, Kennedy, Bryce, those guys that played last year against them in the tournament know how that tail whipping was feeling.
Have you got the response from Kennedy that maybe you hoped, at least in practice?
Yeah, in practice we have to wait and see. But, you know, again, I said that one of the big reasons, it was not just to teach Kennedy something, it was a terrible matchup. We went through a terrible matchup against Notre Dame and we tried to play it to standard stuff and it didn't work. And, you know, we were one basket away from winning, but it didn't work because they just did everything they wanted to do offensively and we couldn't do anything about it. So that was part of it too. Now, nobody on my team knows who Walter Pipp is, but they better figure it out. You know, you got a headache one day and somebody else may come in and score and play great and do all those kind of things, and Wally Pipp may hang around for a while.
Anybody else?
It's never a problem to shake some things up either. Everybody gets fat and happy, and so it's okay to keep people on the edge of that.
All right, thank you. We'll get Nate in here.